Other public comments on agenda items?
Dan Grisbeck, 2763 Milford Drive. I didn't think I'd have to follow Mr. Campbell, Dr. Campbell rather, so this should be fun. I certainly don't share his level of expertise. However, I would like to comment on agenda item G1, the health and safety plan ratification. Specifically, I'd like to encourage you to revise your health and safety plan to add universal masking for the start of the school year, consistent with a recommendation by the CDC as well as the American Academy of Pediatrics. The Pennsylvania Department of Education instructs districts to follow CDC guidelines to the extent practicable. Failing to mandate masks is inconsistent with this instruction, in my opinion. We know masks work. Based on the studies that I've read, this has been proven in now dozens of studies, Leffler 2020, Van Dyke 2020, Payne 2020, which found that the universal use of face masks decreased community spread of COVID by up to 70%. Additionally, numerous studies have shown that masks are not harmful. Sheen 2021 and Chan 2020 analyzed oxygen saturation, as well as oxygen and carbon dioxide partial pressures, and found no difference between masked and unmasked individuals. Barry, the study that you specifically cited, Wallach 2021, has actually been redacted by JAMA. Part of the reasoning being, as you mentioned, the device they used to measure the carbon dioxide content was not rated for that level of carbon dioxide, but in my opinion, and my wife is an ICU nurse, she's dealt with COVID for the entirety of the pandemic, the tidal volume of a typical adult or child that's going to be scaled down is about 500 cc's, 500 milliliters. The amount that's inside your mask, what they are measuring, is maybe a tenth of that. So what you're measuring is not actually the inhaled carbon dioxide, and that's why looking at something like blood gas content or pulse oximetry, like the studies that I referenced did, is a much better way to go about this. I've heard the statement previously that no one else is mandating masks. When we go to grocery stores, restaurants, they're not mandating masks. So universal masking in school really won't do any good. To that, I'd ask, where else are students spending 7 hours a day in an indoor environment in close proximity to 20 other people? Additionally, the idea that individual choice that's being trotted out, it doesn't really apply to masks. They function as source control. So if two students are in a room and one is masked and the other isn't, the student without the mask is more likely to transmit COVID to the student who is masked than vice versa. The student's desire to be protected is negated by the other student choosing not to wear a mask. My biggest concern in all of this is the effect that failing to mandate masks will have on ensuring students receive in-person education for the upcoming school year. After seeing what students went through last year, I believe that maximizing the amount of time in the classroom is the single most important thing that we can do for our students. Failing to mandate masks is in direct opposition to this goal. A study performed throughout Georgia elementary schools last year found that schools that failed to mandate masks had 50% more COVID cases than schools that did mandate masks. That's 50% more students who get pulled out of class and are forced to quarantine, 50% more parents who have to call off work to take care of their child. And this is only going to get worse due to the increase in transmission and vaccine breakthrough potential for the Delta variant. Leading districts like South Fayette have already made the decision to mandate masks for the start of the school year, rather than waiting until after there's an outbreak. I ask that you ignore the politicization of masks and make the decision supported by the available data and leading experts. Thank you, and I apologize for going over a little bit.
Thank you. Any other public comments tonight on agenda items?
Sharon Janisic. Is this one on?
Maybe turn that one on.
Sharon, no, it's worse. Sharon Janisic, 4314 Anna Street. Yes, I agree with Dr. Campbell and Mr. Grisbeck. I would like you very much to consider making masks mandatory. It would be totally awesome to me to be able to say anyone who's unvaccinated, but I can understand you may not want to gather that data and secure it, in which case your alternative is to say everyone be masked. I think Dr. Campbell has a good idea to wait and see what happens with the data over the next couple of weeks. One of my concerns in looking at the safety plan is there isn't anything in there indicating what might happen, what levels we might reach where you might consider it again. Is it going to be if we have 10% of students in quarantine, 50%? if we have to close a building because there aren't adults, there has to be a point at which we re-examine that. I also had a question on the health and safety plan. It talks about when students are in quarantine, they will be given remote instruction, but there isn't anything in there defining what that remote instruction might be. And I'm imagining families where the entire family is in quarantine. Are they going to be able to come to the school and pick up the books? I'm thinking you wouldn't want that, but how are we going to handle what is coming? Thank you very much.
Other public comments?
Kathleen Kroll, 2211 Milford. I'm here tonight to speak on the issue of the voluntary masking in schools. As some of you know, I'm a teacher in another district, a district that will have mandatory masking for all students and staff this fall. My district is committed to protecting the younger children and the vulnerable members of our school community, and they've chosen to follow the recommendations of the majority of medical experts because they realize that our first obligation as a school is to keep our students safe. Masks have been shown time and time again in peer-reviewed study after study to markedly slow the spread of COVID-19. Study after study has also shown that masks do not harm the people wearing them. I truly don't understand why so many people in Bethel Park are so rigidly opposed to taking the simplest of recommended steps to protect the other members of our community and to help to keep our schools open. The idea that we, as laymen, are more knowledgeable than epidemiologists and other medical experts in regard to a novel virus is hubris at its worst, because not only is the decision to not mask personally risky, it willingly endangers the health and lives of others. The district has a lawyer to advise on legal matters, curriculum experts to advise on teaching, and brings in experts in other fields as needed to help make informed, knowledgeable decisions for the benefit of the district and our students. I don't understand why the district is not taking the advice of medical experts in regard to medical matters, and I urge the board and administration to reconsider the voluntary mask policy. Thank you.
Any other public comments at this time? 3 phone calls? Okay. Thank you.
Danielle, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, you're up.
All right, thanks. Let me mute. Okay. So, thank you.
We need your address.
As a healthcare professional
Name
and
and
mother
address.
of an elementary
No,
school
can you
child
give,
who had the
excuse me, can you give your name and address real quick?
Sure can. Danielle, and I'm at 2325 Wells Drive in Bethel Park. So as a healthcare professional and mother of an elementary school child who had the entire last year of remote learning, I'm truly concerned for the health and safety of the 5 to 12-year-old students if universal masking is not mandated. This age group is not yet eligible for vaccination, and it's the only level of protection that they currently have against COVID-19 as masking, social distancing, and proper hand hygiene. Even during last school year, COVID cases were in the schools even while masking was mandated. If even a few parents in each classroom chose unmasking, COVID cases would predictably rise as counts are climbing in all the states, most states in the United States. The current Delta variant is much higher in transmission, with studies showing 1,000 times the viral load. It's affecting more people at once, making them sicker faster than prior mutations, including some breakthrough cases in vaccinated individuals. There's even multiple reports in southern states of children requiring ICU placement and intubation. Nobody wants to see any of our children in that situation. The CDC and American Academy of Pediatrics are advising universal masking in schools, as well as local pediatrician groups. The health and safety of our children need to be the first priority over the politics of non-masking versus masking beliefs. Our children should be able to learn in a safe environment without additional stress or concern for their health. This past year was very difficult for them in learning remotely, lack of socialization, and mental health. We need to come together as a group and think of what is best for the health and well-being of others around us, not just considering what someone does or does not want to do for themselves. Please consider masking mandates, especially in the under 12-year-old student population who do not have vaccine eligibility at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Leslie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Leslie, name and address.
Leslie Bidelson at 765 Marble Valley Drive.
Okay,
And I
you're
also
up.
wanted to talk about the mask. Thank you.
Yep.
First, I wanted to state how disappointed I was watching last month's meeting. I mean, I think our children should be able to watch these meetings and learn from them. And so I'm hoping, like in the future, like this meeting has been, we can treat each other with consideration and speak respectfully. Now, I strongly disagree with the board's interpretation of the CDC guidelines. The CDC, the Pennsylvania Department of Health, the Allegheny County Health Department, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and many local pediatricians support requiring face masks in schools. Not one of these organizations is stating masks are unnecessary. Now, I understand that some children do not want to wear them. There's also some kids that do not want to sit in their car seats, but that doesn't mean that we abandon their safety. It's our job to make sure they are safe. I believe that we want all our children to be able to continue with in-person learning. Masks have been shown to be effective at protecting our children. Not only have they been effective, but for the school district, they are a no-cost solution. Why wouldn't we implement a mask policy that was successful for the school district last year? Especially as case numbers are rapidly rising. Just today, Allegheny County moved into a substantial risk category. And more children are having severe symptoms. Now, I want my school district to be proactive rather than reactive. I want to be able to tell my 6-year-old that her school district understands and will follow all of the guidelines from the doctors and scientists that we have told her for over the past year are vital to keeping us and our community safe. The very same guidelines that she followed last year in the same school. Personally, I was very proud of how our teachers rose to the challenges that they faced and how the school worked to keep our children safe and in person. What I don't understand is the reasoning for removing a highly effective layer of protection for children who are currently unable to be vaccinated. Thank you.
All right, Julianne, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, name and address, and you're on.
Hi, this is Julianne Bowles, 3237 Postgate Drive. Thank you all for your service, and thank you, Dr. Campbell. Today, it is important to acknowledge how much our whole community wants our children to learn together in the classroom this year. It is also important to acknowledge that the best way to achieve our shared goal of an in-person school year is to follow the clear public health guidelines, including universal masking. The Pennsylvania Department of Health, Allegheny County Health Department, American Academy of Pediatrics, and scores of local pediatricians, such as Kids Pediatrics and Dr. Campbell, have come out in support of following the current CDC guidelines and requiring universal masking. The Delta variant is here, and it is dramatically more contagious, possibly more severe, and sometimes it makes vaccinated people infect others. The Delta variant threatens not only our children's health, but also their ability to have an uninterrupted education in the classroom this year. All children under 12 are unvaccinated. Universal masking is necessary because masks work best as source control. Your mask protects me, my mask protects you. So if you send your child to school without a mask, and I send my child with an underlying condition to school in a mask, ironically, your child is more protected than mine in a room with the two of them. That's why mask optional policies don't work. They just leave every child at risk. The CDC, the Pennsylvania Department of Health, Allegheny County Health Department, and local pediatricians understand this. And that's why they are calling for universal masking to keep our children safe and in their classrooms this year. Additionally, Pennsylvania House Bill 605 will not protect the district from COVID-related liabilities if the district does not follow CDC guidelines. This proposed bill is designed to protect schools and businesses from getting sued for COVID infections or outbreaks, but the bill only covers those who follow all public directives. The bill defines public directives as orders and guidelines. Following these guidelines became even more urgent today when Allegheny County entered the substantial community spread category. And finally, as we strive to be best in class, please note that the current best in class, South Fayette School District, posted their health and safety plan on Thursday, which states that they will always follow current CDC guidelines, including the universal mask requirement. I'm sorry, but you are wrong that you have more time. Your decision last meeting already put my daughter at risk.
Your 2 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other phone calls?
That is it for now.
Okay. All right. Our first item items are in the curriculum committee. Vince, Mr. Scalzo, would you please, I think you could take them together.
Okay. Under Curriculum Committee, we have 2 items. First item, 2021-2022 student handbooks, and number 2, independent studies and marketing. I would like to move both items.
I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Spacuzza. Any comments, questions on these 2 items? It didn't look like there were many dramatic changes in the handbooks at all. Ms. Wells, no? Okay.
Voting is open. Motion passes.
Thank you. Personnel Committee, Mr. McGregor.
Okay, there are 8 items underneath Personnel Committee. I'll read all 8 out, and I know we're going to talk about number 2, or Dr. Walsh would like to talk about number 2. Approval of Extra Duty Responsibility Program, 21-22. Acceptance of resignations, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Approval of staffing change. Appointment of personnel. Change of assignment. Approval of job description. MOU with the Bethel Park Federation of Teachers, and an MOU with the Bethel Park Federation of Teachers.
I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Christensen. Comments or questions or on any of these items? Dr. Walsh, did you?
Well, I did already share the best wishes message from Marilyn Williams, who's on the agenda for your approval tonight to accept her retirement letter. There are some other items on there, for instance, the staffing changes, a title change. You have some appointment of professional staff, which I'll introduce after your motion. There is the revised job description for a Director of Technology position, which is currently posted. That posting closes tomorrow, so we can start to call those applications and move forward. There's 2 MOUs with the Federation. One speaks to additional staff added using grant funds, ESSER's money, and the other speaks to using our Bethel teachers and our Bethel curriculum to offer remote instruction next year for those in need.
Any other questions or comments about any of those items? Okay.
I apologize. Was there a second that was?
Mr. Christensen.
Voting is open. Motion passes.
Yeah, so thank you. If you can interject here again. One of the professional staff you approved tonight is a special ed teacher, Kristen Heinzel, who's going to be relocating from her home in North Carolina to Bethel Park. She's not here with us this evening, but we'll invite her to join and meet the board at a future occasion. Laura Grimm is here. Laura's sitting in the back. Laura, you approved her as a new assistant athletic director, coming to us after 6 or 7 years in the Ringgold School District in this position as an athletic director, and we're lucky to have her and bring that expertise. You want to come up and say hi to the board here, Laura?
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. I just wanted to, say that I'm very excited to start off in this new role and very appreciative of the opportunity. So I look forward to getting to meet you here in the next couple of weeks and get to know you a little better and, get to work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
And also the board approved the appointment of Mandy Figlioli as our new curriculum coordinator for STEAM education K through 12. And the board would know from the round of interviews that she comes with a lot of years of experience in assistant to the superintendent position, where she was instrumental in bringing STEAM and maker education to the Burgettstown Area School District. And we're looking forward to having her here to do that and take us to our next best.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here this evening. I'm honored to be a part of this team and also, like Laura said, to get to work and making our programs best in class. Also very excited to meet the students and the staff, the parents, the community members. It's been wonderful to meet the board of directors. You've been incredibly involved in the process, and that shows your commitment to education. And very excited to collaborate with Ms. Wells and the other administrators. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome.
That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Spacuzza?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Dobus. There are 2 items this evening under Facility and Services. I'd like to move the following 2 items. The approval of the replacement flooring at the Memorial Elementary School, classrooms 3, 5, 7. It's done by CoStars and Franklin Interiors at a cost of $15,675. And the purchase of marquee signs for the administration building, Independence Middle School, a total cost from Fast Signs of $54,849.44, paid from the Capital Reserve Fund.
I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Nagel. Questions or comments on these? I don't think that they've come up before. The marquee signs maybe have come up before, but
The marquee signs, are they going to be the marquee signs like that are at the high school that large, that are able to do all the notices and those kinds of things, so we're not out there with letters anymore that fall off?
Correct. It will eliminate the ransom letter signs. So,
You may want to share a couple of those with the elementary schools that still have them, though. They're falling
yes,
again.
but they will be LED readout signs. With I'm working with the borough right now to determine how many different readouts we can have in a time interval. But it'll be nice to be able to portray information timely.
Mr. Fierce, one other question. Have we gotten approval from the municipality yet, or the planning commission, or
I am currently working with them. I am in the process of writing variances because of the changeover with the LED readouts and the lighting and everything.
Yeah, I only asked that question because I remember the high school sign very well.
Yes.
It's still the same.
Thank you.
So the second one was put in as discussion. So I am going to open the first one, but we are voting on both of those. Is that correct?
say that again?
So when this was put into board docs, it was put in as an action and a discussion. So number 2 was put in as a discussion, so you can't vote on it. But I will make a note, if we vote on the first one, that both of these are going to be passed instead of voting on the second one. Does that make sense?
Was it supposed to be in the committee?
Can you change that real quick? Yeah, it's supposed to.
Since it has the type list, sorry, thank you. Since it has the type listed as discussion, now it reads like a motion, but I'm going to ask for a vote to change it to an action item because you're changing an agenda item.
Okay, so do we do that before we do
that
anything
before.
right now?
Right.
Oh, I see.
And then as a secondary item.
It is discussion.
So what you want to do is vote on the first one, the replacement flooring separately.
Okay,
And then do, just to make it
two,
cleaner.
two items.
Yeah, and then 2 items on the marquee, to change it from discussion to action, and then to approve the motion.
Before we do that, may I ask, is it wise to vote for the purchase of something before we have the approval to install it? Should we allow the process to take place, or do we need to purchase that?
I was along the lines of trying to get the approval to purchase, so once I get through the borough process, we can just go ahead and make sure we can get this as timely as possible. I felt this was the more appropriate first step.
So purchasing is conditional upon getting
Correct.
permits?
Correct.
If I can just add one point too, it takes a considerable amount of time to construct the marquees, both of them. So we're looking for lead time with that as well.
And if between the approval and the purchase time, if the price of the marquees increases or decreases, would we have to vote again because we're voting on a dollar amount?
You're voting on the quotes that are attached. So I would imagine these have a time amount attached to them. They usually do.
How long is that quote good for?
Doesn't say on the agenda item. Oh, no, it does. The estimates are valid for a period of 30 days.
yeah.
After you received it. It was generated on July 19th, so that price is good till August 19th approximately. Yeah.
In our experience, it usually takes longer than 30 days to get that approved.
And personally, I wouldn't be as concerned, but I know from being in a construction industry, prices are fluctuating very rapidly and very drastically right now. That's why I'm asking these questions.
So can we move it to the August 22nd meeting?
So if,
Yeah,
to
let's move
clarify.
it to the 24th.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Do we need a motion to move it to the 24th?
It's not in the voting right now.
You don't
Was
need any
discussion?
motion. If you're going to just vote on it on the 24th, then you discussed it tonight, and you'll just take a vote
Okay.
right now on item 1 under
Okay,
No,
only on item 1.
facilities.
On the 24th, would they be able to revise the price on the quote if that's necessary without us having further discussion? Or-
Sure. why
Before
not?
the 24th, you'll have, this price will have expired.
Right.
So you'll have to get a new estimate.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we're only voting on number 1, the replacement flooring at Memorial, and this was part of the, I guess, an annual update process that is necessary yearly?
Correct. It's, as carpet wears, it gets to the end of its service life, it needs replaced.
Yeah, okay. All right, voting only on number
Okay,
1.
apologize once again. The second was the person who made the second.
Can I?
Voting is open. Motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Christensen? Finance?
For the Finance Committee, there's 2 items, and I move to adopt the lease agreement with Lois Johnson Learning and Child Care Center and to adopt the transportation bus run plan.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Modrak. Questions or comments on any of these? On either of these?
All right, voting is open. Motion passes.
Ms. Turner?
there's 4 items tonight. None are up for third reading. The first one is a revision of policies, second of third reading. The weapons, the terroristic threats, the hazing. Policies being rescinded is the electronic record signature, which we fixed in last meeting. Approval of policies, threats and assessment, and school police officers' use of force and weapons. That's for the first reading. And revisions of policies for the first reading for bullying, cyberbullying, dating violence, emergency preparedness and response, and school security personnel. And I believe this one all had to do with additional changes to Title. Was it threat assessment? Yeah, threat assessment.
Threat
Sorry.
assessment updates.
And that threat assessment is the mandated
Yes.
in-service at the beginning of the year? Okay.
Yeah. Right, schools are required now to have threat assessment teams, so they updated policy so that those, if the particular infractions were occurring, the threat assessment team could be involved.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Mr. Modrak, will you take other, please?
Yes. 1 second, please. Other, we have 2 items here tonight. First one is health and safety plan ratification, and the second item is a student settlement agreement and release. I'd like to see both if we can separate those 2 items for their votes.
Okay, I need a motion for the first one. I need a second for the first one. Seconded by Mr. Christensen. Comments or concerns about that? Based on lots of conversations and emails and so forth, my concern is the concern that some people have raised, and that would be if we revisit this in 3 weeks, what will create the data that we feel that we should revisit it, and then if we do, what date should we have the meeting? I think that I'd like to be clear about that before I would vote for this, because I don't want it to just go by the wayside and school opens. So I don't know if anyone has any clear answers about that, but what kind of, what data would necessitate us having a meeting to mandate masks at this time?
I went on, after Dr. Campbell talked, I was on the Allegheny County website, especially after we were getting all these links to all these different places with the comments and emails. What I was able to find is the county website updated on 7/30/2020 in Bethel Park over the last 3 months. So that would be May, June, and July. There were 144 cases, and there were 1,332 tests done. The website, as Mr. Spicuzza and I were just sitting here, just updated at 8:30 tonight. There are 153 cases over the last 3 months in Bethel Park and 1,402 tests. So that means in 3 days, Bethel Park had 9 cases. I didn't do the math for the test, but that would be almost 100 people that tested. I think it's 99. No, I can't do the.
Thank you for looking up that information. I appreciate it.
So, based on what we had done last year, we were looking at the municipality as a whole. I think if we could ask health and safety to trace this, and again, this is not, based on what Dr. Campbell said too, this website is now not updated daily. That could be, causing us, how fast we can get the data. That's just a concern of mine, that it's not, when we were making decisions last school year, this website was updated daily. It is not now. So my thing was, the other thing too is overall, since the pandemic began, Bethel Park's PCR is currently 4.5. Over the last 3 months, I did the math, but I'm not doing the math correctly, so I need a little bit more time to get you that one.
But again, from 7:30 till tonight at 8:30, or 7:30, and I believe it was like 6 o'clock at night, till tonight at 8:30, there were 9 additional cases in Bethel Park. And if I can do math quickly, it was 70 tests and 9 cases. So your PCR is probably, your rate of infection is probably quite low.
Yeah, my question is just what will move us to have another meeting or to change our, I really would like to have the administration or safety director or whatever to say, if we reach this point, we're going to have another meeting and you can reevaluate.
Well, that was one of my questions with Dr. Campbell, and I apologize for not expressing it. I think at some point, the county will have authority over our decisions, is my question. At this point in time, as our administration is working with the county, at one point, we may not have that ability to make a local decision if the county health department, who has the legal authority over Allegheny County residents and the school districts, comes down and makes a mandate. So as these numbers, if they do continue to increase, it may be, that was my point, it may be out of our hands. And that could be up to next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or sometime in the fall. And hopefully everyone understands that as we move forward.
I would say that if we're in the substantial range where the CDC clearly advises, for masks.
Allegheny County is insubstantial.
Yeah, we moved there
Can't find
now.
that.
But
We can't find that on the website. Okay, but it's not on the Allegheny County website.
So when we get closer, I agree we should wait. As we get closer, maybe the Thursday before school starts, meet again, take a look at the data. So far, last time we heard all this stuff about personal rights, I don't really, personal freedoms, I don't really buy into that. We're hearing today, because of the news, about the increase in the Delta variant. Of course, that's related to safety. It's something that I think we're all concerned about. But the thing we haven't really talked about is the quality of education in the classroom and students wearing masks. I've talked to a lot of teachers about the inability to see facial expressions on students when they're in the classroom, the engagement of students when they're in the classroom wearing a mask. And so it's one of these risk balance exercises we have to go through, but I think it's not just about being 100% safe, it's also about balancing the effectiveness of delivering education, the engagement of students in the classroom. And so, based on the numbers today, I don't want to just jump to saying, yeah, we need masks. I agree 100% with what Dr. Campbell said. Let's wait, and if we're still in the substantial range, we have to get together. I don't think there's any universal metrics, okay? We haven't been given those outside of some mandate between now and then, but we're going to have to get together and debate it again.
Did you want to say something, Dr. Jensen?
Yeah, just with all due respect, I'd just like to remind the board that we have the ability to approve the plan and make a change to the plan before the next board meeting. In other words, the plan doesn't have to wait a whole month till the next board meeting to make changes if we need to make changes. And of course, if we see an increase in student population becoming infected, if we see an increase of hospitalization, those are two benchmarks that we would consider. Obviously, if a mandate does come through, it's in our plan that we would follow that mandate. So right now, we're kind of holding where we are with the understanding that we have the ability to change when we need to change it.
And Mrs. Dobis, I'm going to borrow Mr. Spacuzza's computer because he can type as fast as I was trying to do math with a pen and the 7-day moving average, according to the Allegheny County website for the whole county, there are 64 cases, new cases. 2,800 or 2,087 tests were done in the last 7 days. 64 of those were positive. Your positivity rate currently for the 7-day average in Allegheny County is 3.2. So again, I agree with Dr. Campbell. Let's follow the data. Let's see if it was if that happened to be the 4th of July. Because the positivity rate is lower than it was 7 days prior.
I'm comfortable with following the data. I just don't want school to open without us reconsidering this if we need to. So I think what I hear you saying, Dr. Jansani, is that you and Dr. Walsh will stay on top of it, and if you feel the need for us to meet again or to change the plan, you will change the plan and we will re-vote on the 24th. Is that what I hear?
Yes, that's exactly what, I'm recommending.
Just speak up.
Ms. Zondo.
Tonight, the health and safety plan is on as a ratification, just to clarify some of the procedural questions that came up at the last meeting, which I think were complicated by my presence being virtual. But for the plan to change, I would strongly recommend the board to reconvene and debate it and discuss it again and allow public comment before it is changed. A ratification should be a measure of last resort.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Okay.
Voting is open. Motion passes.
Our second item is student settlement agreement and release, as recommended by our solicitor.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Nagel.
Voting is open.
Okay, I need a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting and move into the committee meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Turner and seconded by Mr. Spacuzza.
Voting is open.
Oh, I already got out of that meeting. Anthony, yes.
Okay. Voting passes.
Okay. Mr. Scalzo, we have 3 items. Do you want to lead the discussion on that?
Yes. So we have 3 items. The first item is 2021-2022 Title 1A, Title 2A, and Title 4A. Title 1A is improving basic programs, $270,758. Title 2A, supporting effective instruction, $75,706. And Title 4A, student support and academic enrichment at $23,943. Grants for a total amount of $370,405. Number 2, pre-K counts grant for 2021-2022, and that grant is in the amount of $148,750. And number 3, professional development. The Board of School Directors approves administration's recommendation to permit Dr. James Walsh to attend the PASCD 70th Annual Conference, Pennsylvania Association for Supervision and Curriculum, in the Hershey Lodge and Convention Center, Hershey, PA, from November 21st to the 23rd of 2021 at a cost of $1,178.22.
So I have a couple questions. The pre-K counts grant, is the pre-K going to occur at William Penn again? Okay, and the Title I and II and III is something we approve, or IV, I'm sorry. We approve that every year?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
Maybe a good chance to run through the differences between Title I, II, and IV. Do you mind?
Sure. So the Title I funding is to improve basic programming. We at Bethel Park utilize the Title I funds to pay salaries and benefits partial for 3 reading specialists at the 3 schools that are currently designated as Title I, Memorial, Lincoln, and Ben Franklin. And then our Title II funding, we use that for classroom reduction size. Coming up for the 21-22 school year, we will utilize the 4th first grade teacher at Lincoln as the class size reduction teacher. And so that's what we will use those funds for. And we roll Title IV funding into Title I to increase the amount that we pay for the salaries for the interventions at the Title I schools provided by the reading specialists.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, Mr. Christensen then, Finance?
Can we put all 3 of those in the consent
Oh,
agenda?
thank you, I'm sorry. All 3 of those okay to go into consent agenda? Okay.
So in finance, the first 3 items, there's not a lot of data there just because of where we are in the month right now, but those are pretty standard reports. I'd recommend that those be put into the consent agenda. Item number 4 is the approval for cross-district agreement for special education. It looks like, and that's what we should maybe provide some clarification here. So this is where students from other districts are going to enroll in our special education program in Bethel Park?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
And so what is it that we will be voting on in this item in the next meeting? Will it be the tuition rates?
Yeah, the terms of the agreement.
Terms of the agreement.
Right, exactly what we're offering and the cost, et cetera.
Okay. Okay. And then number 5 on the agenda is the fund balance commitment. So this is where we're going to approve the commitment to the fund balance for these legal settlements. Is this, are these the same that we just voted on in this meeting for the compensatory education costs?
It is not, the student that was voted on in the prior meeting is not on an allocation yet.
Okay.
I imagine that it will come on a subsequent agenda.
Okay.
At least one of these I can confirm was a prior settlement, and I assume the other ones are too. I just didn't have an opportunity to reconcile the student ID numbers.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I was just wondering if there's somehow linked to what we just voted on.
There would not be an item asking for allocation of funds unless the board had approved the settlement.
Okay.
So all 5 will go on consent then, Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to take others?
Sure. We have one item under other, acceptance of superintendent and assistant superintendent for administration goals.
Okay, and these goals are aligned for the public's benefit. These goals are aligned with the Pennsylvania evaluation for both superintendents and assistant superintendents, and they involve student growth and achievement, organizational leadership, human resource management, district operations and financial stewardship, and communications and community relations. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, I think they could be put on the agenda then for the next time. Do you want them to be on the consent, or do you want us to be them separate?
separate.
Okay. They're important enough that I think
Yes.
I'd rather they be acknowledged and
Independently. Yeah.
independently, yes. Okay, at this time, we have public comments on any agenda items that you would like to bring to our attention.
Sharon Janasek, 4314 Anna Street. I just wanted to mention on the dress codes that are in the student handbooks that we passed. I was very, very happy to see the new dress code for IMS. It is a common sense dress code, which is sorely needed. So thank you very much, and I appreciate the work of, I believe it was the teaching staff who made those changes. However, I noticed that Neil Armstrong Middle School and the high school both still have the old dress code. And it seems to me that if we have a really good dress code that's good for IMS, it should be good for NAMS and good for the high school too. So I would encourage you, if you could do whatever magic we need to do to make that a universal thing, that would be absolutely fabulous. Thank you. And I did want to point out, Ms. Turner, I think you were talking about those tests in Bethel Park. You said 9 out of 70. That's actually a really high percent. It's like 12.8.
No, Mr. Spacuzza has it, and it's 2.8. It's on the Allegheny County website, it's 2.8.
Positivity in Bethel Park, if you have 70 tests and 9 positive?
It's 2.5 per the Allegheny County website, just updated this evening.
Maybe you can, I'll come look at after so you can show me, because if there were 9 positives out of 70 tests, that's not right. So we may have misheard you, the numbers you were given. But that's what I wanted to mention, and thank you for considering all of the masking concerns that everyone has. We appreciate that. Thanks.
Any other public comments? Are there any phone calls? Okay. Any board comments at this time?
Have we checked the emails?
We're not doing that
We're
anymore.
not doing that
We're
anymore?
just doing
Okay.
on the phone and in
I
person.
just wanted to make sure we weren't missing
Right,
something. Okay.
right. Thank you. Board comments, anyone?
So, yeah, I'd like to just, because I try to always be transparent and explain my position on the health and safety, the masking, universal masking. I know explaining my position isn't going to make anybody happy on any side. Quite honestly, this COVID has been the least political thing that I've done in decades, making decisions based on COVID in this seat. I made a pledge to the community when I ran that I'd always keep the health, safety, and education of our children first and foremost. COVID's made that extremely difficult because our children are the least susceptible and least vulnerable to this disease. Many of the decisions we're making, we're basing on community numbers that don't really reflect our children as deeply, or we're making to prevent community spread, which before the vaccines were readily available. Although I disagreed with some of the decisions, I understood it a lot more. As far as masking, I agree with Mr. Christensen. The nonverbal cues, what Dr. Campbell said, the discomfort and things like that. I think after a year of having children's education, social emotional growth setback, I want to do everything possible to remove any barriers to helping them get back on track. Any distractions, any barriers. It's not because I don't take this seriously. I'm vaccinated. I'm proudly vaccinated. The numbers that I've looked at, and I've looked at time and time again, are based on 0 to 17. I've gone further looking at numbers based on up to 24, just to kind of get a comparison. And largely, those who contract COVID in those age groups have very light symptoms, and their outcomes, hospitalizations and deaths, are almost non-existent. So I just wanted to clarify, as we're making these big decisions, the things that I'm looking at as I'm making the decisions, just so the community is aware that I'm taking this seriously as all the board members are. I don't believe there's anybody up here who is making political decisions based on this. If you look at the party affiliations, even though we're nonpartisan positions, and the voting records, you'll see a lot of cross in all of that. This is not a political issue. This is based on the health, safety, and education of our children, and it's not clear cut. There are a lot of unknowns. There are a lot of variables that we're having to weigh in making these decisions. But thought you guys all were owed an explanation of where I'm coming from when I'm making my decisions. Other than that, thank you all, and welcome to our new staff members, our new administrators, and we're excited with all the progress we've made over the last several years, and more recently over the last couple years, looking to bringing a lot of the committees to the steering committee of the strategic plan and building a better Bethel Park. So, thank you.
You were going to say something?
Yeah, I'd like to just state that, this board has made a lot of decisions here lately outside of COVID that has strived to meet some of the goals for us who got elected here a few years ago of improving the educational experience within the students of Bethel Park. And you see that here tonight. There were some hirings here tonight. There's been some hirings in the last few months that our goal is to improve and increase the educational experience that our students are getting through all grade levels. And it's just not ending here tonight. There'll be more, hopefully more changes coming, more opportunities to improve on that educational status that we once had held and continue to strive to go for again. But I just want, hopefully, everyone in the community, we got tied on so many side issues here in regards to COVID that we lost track that a lot of us got into this to improve that educational experience that the children here in Bethel Park demanded, had been lacking for a few years, and our goal was to improve that and increase that and as we keep moving forward. Thank you.
And just to add on to that, I think it's worth thanking everybody who's been a part of the strategic planning committees, and this one in particular is the curriculum committee. I think that with all the input that we received from people sharing stories, looking at data, results, it became apparent that we need to maintain, we need to even need to improve our focus on maintaining consistency throughout the grade level journey of students and then across classrooms to maintain greater consistency. And that's the hire, especially with Mandy tonight, is a even greater focus on making sure that we have that consistency, that we're driving more or less the discipline and the curriculum structure across grades, across classrooms. And so this is a result of what we're doing. It's an early result of what's already happening within these strategic planning committees. And over the course of the next 4 to 5 months, I think everybody across the community is going to see some excellent recommendations to help move Bethel Park forward.
Anybody else?
I need to echo what everybody said here tonight. The one thing as a Bethel Park graduate, academics is first. That's that was the building block that, when I graduated in the 90s. And I'm looking at my child who is a rising senior in 3 weeks. Unbelievable that that's happening. That I want that education for her. I also have a rising second grader. I want that education for him. The consistency across buildings is something that this board has talked about. The consistency that we can have at K-12 now and work with those facilitators is going to be even greater to keep the consistency going. So thank you, and I hope we didn't totally kill your Florida vacation.
I'd like to thank Mr. Cromie for your presentation. I'm glad to hear that we're going to have the email. As someone who doesn't do a lot of social media, I'm glad we're going to have the email again, recognition. I did want to point out that unofficially in 1971, at the YMCA down on McMurray Road, or McLaughlin Run Road, I was part of the first Powder Puff game, but it was sort of an unofficial kind of game, and then it moved into the school system, so.
Did you win?
I don't think we did. We were seniors and we lost to the juniors, but still, it was fun. It was one of the, but I continued, I coached it after I became a teacher in Bethel for years down at Perky Field. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Cromie, for that, and hopefully it'll become a regular part of our meetings again. I want to echo about the strategic plan. Most of the committees are finishing up their initial work in the next couple weeks and are getting ready to present to the steering committee at the end of August. And so we're moving forward with that, and it's a very exciting time for all of us who want to envision a 5-year future and what's going to be occurring in the district in the next 5 years. And I think there's a lot of excitement and enthusiasm around the new staff that we're having and the staff that is still here, and everybody working together under the wonderful leadership of Dr. Walsh, our new superintendent. And just a brief explanation of my vote on this safety plan. I'm very uncomfortable with us not having masks. I think we should mask. I believe that we are our brother's keepers, and that masking is not a big deal, but I'm looking forward to meeting again before school starts. So, and motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Nagel, seconded by Mr.
Second.
Modrak.
Voting is open. Motion passes.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
It didn't pass. Just thought about it. Just a drag around.